Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 1 Monday Night Football Showdown. I've got a video for you to break it down. Everything that you're going to need to know about this matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos on Monday night. DraftKings and FanDuel both have fantastic tournaments for this first Monday Night Football slate of the year. There are 2 games. One of them is featured. This is the game that is featured between the Titans and Denver. I do not have a video for you for the Pittsburgh Steelers game. I'm not doing it because there's not big enough tournaments for me to really get after it. So this is the slate that I'm going to be focusing on, and hopefully you can take the messages that I'm going to give you from this video. If you watch the Sunday night video, if you watch the how to win on DraftKings on single game showdown video that I did with Drewby from dailyroto.com, we're going to try and apply everything that we know from that video to every single island game showdown slate moving forward. So everything that's from this video, except for like the injury news and the breakdowns and the potential value plays, is highly transferable to that other Monday Night Football game. So if you are going to play both of those on single game showdown, take the information from this one that I'm going to tell you about lineup correlation and building and apply it to that game just the same. But looking at this slate, there are a couple of things that we have to take advantage of. There's a couple of injuries on both teams that are going to open up some playing time. And because the salaries were released before those injuries happened, if the news breaks that those players are out, it's going to create tremendous value opportunities to allow you to just jam in the studs and try to overweight the field in terms of roster percentage on this slate or captain percentage on this slate. And we're going to discuss all of that on this video. So please drop a like on it before we move on. If you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ring that notifications bell. I come out with an absolute metric ton of NFL daily fantasy videos throughout every single week of the season, 1 through 20. I don't stop at week 17. We go through the playoffs and all the way through the Super Bowl. So you're not going to want to miss any one of those videos. The best way to make sure you don't miss, ring the notifications bell. But you guys know that. You're veterans. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Let's get to the breakdown. Like I said, there's a couple injuries that we have to take note of. They're not definitely out yet, but Courtland Sutton is questionable. He did not really practice very much this week. In practice, he hurt his shoulder. He is listed as questionable. They're going to test him out 90 minutes before the game starts. We will know whether or not he is going to go or not. Right now, he is more viable to play than one of the players that I know that certain people are thinking is going to be one of his backups, and that's rookie KJ Hamler, who is priced pretty attractively way down here. You know, he's one of the cheaper options on the slate at 200. But he is more doubtful than questionable from everything that they've said with a hamstring injury. Get used to hamstring injuries. They are going to be extremely common through the first, let's say, month of the season and maybe beyond. Let's hope that these players can stay as healthy as possible. But the ramp up to going to game speed at 100% without any sort of game speed practice for preseason games where you got to go 100%, the body is just not ready to play football at that speed, at that level, and we've seen it through practices. We've saw it in games on the main slate on Sunday. Players are going to get hurt just like every year in football, but more soft tissue injuries are popping up through camp this year than any previous with the absence of minicamp and everything else due to COVID. We all know about that. So Hamler, if he is playing and Sutton is not, ridiculous value at 200, but I think his situation injury-wise is worse than Sutton. More than likely, both of them are going to be out. And on the other side of the ball, Corey Davis, also listed as questionable with, guess what, a hamstring injury. We won't know until Monday if he's going to play. We won't know until 90 minutes before the game if he is going to play. So monitor the situation. If Davis is out, it's not going to affect A.J. Brown. He's going to eat, right? The big dogs are going to eat whether it's Henry or whether it's A.J. Brown. But looking at everybody else that's on Tennessee and looking at the wide receivers that they have available, somebody like Jonnu Smith might get a couple of more targets thrown his way, not unlike TJ Hawkinson did on Sunday, right? We expected him to see more targets with Galladay out. If Corey Davis is out, and I think Corey Davis is a 5-6 target guy on this team, assuming that they throw it 30 times, maybe 1 or 2 of those targets falls into Jonnu Smith's portion. We're going to see more playing time for somebody like Adam Humphries, possibly, who could see a viable amount of targets. Like, I don't want to say, oh yeah, Adam Humphries is going to get 9 targets. No, I'm not expecting that. But I also don't need that with his price being where it is at 2,200. So just be on the lookout for the reports and see who's going to actually start when the games get here once they announce the inactives. So let's go through the breakdown and talk about how we're going to go about building our lineups. Number one, the player that I expect to be most popular in the captain spot is going to be Derrick Henry, because the big dog's going to eat. That's just the way that it goes. This Titans offense revolves completely around Derrick Henry and everything that he can do, and rightfully so. I have been begging for 2 seasons for the Titans to just throw Henry the ball 4 times a game. Please. Can we please just do that? Because this 2 and 1 targets a game is really not doing it for me at all. And if you could just throw 1 screen pass per quarter, 1 design screenplay to Derrick Henry per quarter, that's really all we need. He would bust one of those for a big gain every single game if they just committed to throwing it to him 4 times. The good news is there is a rookie behind him on the depth chart. That's the only other running back on this roster. So maybe Derrick Henry will see a few more targets this year. We already saw on Sunday guys like Jacobs on the Raiders sees 6 targets. Jonathan Taylor from the Colts, after the injury to Marlon Mack, saw 6 targets himself. A lot of people were telling the tale that Taylor was not going to be able to catch the ball at the NFL level. They never threw it to him at Wisconsin. Well, they threw it to him 6 times. Raheem Mostert got a bunch of passes thrown his way after seeing 0, 1, and 2 targets most games last year. So maybe this is the trend that these running backs that never saw it before are going to see it moving forward. Hopefully they involve Derrick Henry a little bit more in the passing game. I'm not looking for like vintage Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, CMC type numbers in the pass game, but he doesn't need it. Give him 4 targets a game, all of a sudden he's an absolute stud on DraftKings at full PPR. The quarterbacks are going to be over-owned in captain. This is going to be a theme that we're going to talk about every single showdown slate. Quarterbacks tend to win showdowns, or let's say a quarterback in captain wins showdown slates roughly 14% of the time. A running back or a wide receiver as a captain wins, a team with them as the captain wins over 70% of the time. So we want to limit, in whatever lineup builder you're using, we want to limit our quarterbacks in our captain spot. Maybe a rare occasion, if it's somebody like Lamar Jackson, you'll go to like 15 or 20% on somebody like that at captain, because clearly they have a higher ceiling than most quarterbacks. But typically speaking, and don't need one single receiver to have a huge game for them to have a massive game and pay off as captain. So yes, there's clearly going to be exceptions to the rule. So I'm going to build my quarterback group. Anytime that we build the Tannehill at quarterback group, I'm going to tell the lineup optimizer, I'm going to build 2 groups around this. The first one, every single pass catcher on Tennessee. So AJ Brown, for the record, let's just assume that Corey Davis is playing. We'll add him to it. Jonnu Smith, Humphreys, those are going to be the guys that I focus on. I'm going to make sure that at least 2 of these guys is in any lineup where Tannehill is the quarterback. I am not going to exclude Derrick Henry from those. I'm not going to make a separate group that says if Tannehill is the captain, do not use Derrick Henry, because both of them can eat on the same game. We've seen that happen all the way down the stretch last year. You saw how good a December Derrick Henry had, and then you look at the December that Ryan Tannehill had before the playoffs started. 23, 25, 31 points. They're not mutually exclusive, even though they're not exactly complementary or cooperative players, right? There's not very much correlation between Tannehill and a non-pass catching Henry, but they're not mutually exclusive, because when one rolls, the other also tends to roll for various reasons. Denver also missing some guys in their defense with Von Miller going down, so might be a little bit of a rough go for the Denver defense as well. The other group I'm going to build for Tannehill, and I'm going to do this for both quarterbacks, I need to build a group with every Denver offensive player that I think is viable, and I'm going to make the optimizer use at least one of those. This includes Drew Lock. I'm going to assume Sutton's out. It's going to include Melvin Gordon III. It's going to include Lindsey. It's going to include Fant. It's going to include Patrick, who is, because of the injury, is going to see way much more volume than he would normally see. I don't think if you're building cash game lineups for this showdown, which I don't play cash games in showdown, I really don't. I did on Sunday because I was trying to chase some overlay that never materialized in the afternoon game, the Tampa Bay New Orleans game, but that overlay got eaten up. So it's something that I don't do. I play showdown to try and bank a tournament. Tim Patrick, Humphreys, all these cheap guys, Hamler, if he plays and Sutton doesn't, is going to allow us to just basically avoid the kickers and defenses almost entirely. Clearly we're going to play some of them, but you're not going to need to rely on them for value plays. The wide receivers, the running backs, if they're going to play and are super cheap like these guys, provide you a much greater opportunity to chase value because they'll get there on volume, just like a kicker would. You expect 8 points out of a kicker. You could probably get 8 points out of Tim Patrick, assuming that Sutton and Hamler are both out. And he has the massive upside of maybe scoring a touchdown along with it, or maybe ending up with 100 yards. So there is a 20 to 30 point day possible from somebody like Tim Patrick, where that really is far less likely for a kicker or a defense. So we're going to include him and anybody that we think is going to be available in the passing game. The other one would be Deshaun Hamilton if both of those other wide receivers are out. So there's going to be a ton of value on this slate. So I'm going to build all those. I'm going to make sure that I use at least one of those players from this Ryan Tannehill, we call it the bring back group, with him at captain. And then the other way that we're going to go, we're going to do the same thing with Drew Lock. We're going to play all the players on Denver who catch passes. You can include the running backs on Denver, but I don't think that you need to. If you want to and weight them down by boosting them down in the group with Drew Lock, that's fine. Jerry Jeudy going to be extremely popular and should see a ton of targets with Sutton being injured. Tim Patrick, I already mentioned Deshaun Hamilton, all the players on his team. Minimum of 2 of those players in any Drew Lock captain group, and then the bring back group, obviously, as we go every single player that I think is going to get a good amount of snaps and volume, or volume for value for the cheaper players. Henry, Tannehill, not avoiding the quarterback in the bring back group for the quarterback. It's totally fine to have both QBs in a lineup. Corey Davis, I'm going to assume, is out. Clearly, A.J. Brown is a monster on the outside. He may see less efficiency this year. He's not going to have 20 yards per catch. He's not going to score 20 to 30 fantasy points on 4 targets, but I also don't think he's going to get like 4 or 5 targets last year. He didn't really top 70% of the snaps until week 8 or 9. He's going to do that basically every week and see the lion's share of the targets on this team. Probably 23 to 26% of the targets, which is a monster share. Anything around 28 plus is like all pro. 22 to 26% is somebody that you must stuff into your starting lineup pretty much every week. So AJ Brown, the cover boy, for a reason going into this year. Every other player that we think might be viable is going to go into that. You can include the kicker if you want, but I typically don't. If the optimizer throws a kicker in there, I will use them. As far as kickers and defense go, I build one group with all 4 of them, and I've got it selected to one team, so it's not going to show me all 4 of them. We'll put the Broncos and we'll put McManus in there as well. I'm going to build a group in the lineup builder, whichever one you use. Look, the tool is the tool, right? A lineup builder is not going to make you a winning player. It's going to allow you to be more efficient with your time in building lineups and to see what the system wants. But the projections are really what matters the most. Any lineup builder that you feel most comfortable with will work for you as long as you are on point with your projections, your weighting, your allocations, and everything else. So use the lineup builder that you are most comfortable with. The one that I've used for the last years is Daily Roto. We also have a promotion with rotogrinders. Both have links down below in the description. If you click show more, you'll get a link to those. Daily Roto has a 10% off discount, and rotogrinders, you get multiple sports as well by using the links in the description down below if you want to help support the companies that support the stream and support the YouTube channel. So as I said, we're going to build a group with all 4 of these. I'm going to set a max of 1 of these 4 in any single lineup that I build. If the optimizer throws any defense or any kicker into a lineup, I only want 1 of them max. I want to focus on the players that have upside, and the defenses and the kickers, while yes, every once in a while they'll return 2 pick sixes, or every once in a while a kicker will have 6 or 7 field goals, and 1 of them or 2 of them are over 50 yards, and the game is in Denver, so maybe there's a higher chance for a 50-yard field goal because of the altitude. Realistically speaking, those are outliers. So I'm going to limit to 1. If one of those things happens, hopefully I catch lightning in a bottle with that guy, but I'm not going to lean into kickers and defense. I'm going to try and rely on those running backs and wide receivers at captain. And last but not least, our running backs in captain, I'm not going to make any rules unless it's okay. If I have Derrick Henry, I'm probably going to make sure that there's no Denver defenses in lineups with him. So I'll build a group around that. But more often than that, I'm going to build, if A.J. Brown is my captain, every single one of the A.J. Brown and captain lineups must have Ryan Tannehill in that team. I will do that for every pass catcher that I'm going to use in captain, no matter which team it is. If I've got Jerry Jeudy as captain, which if Sutton is deemed out, I probably will have a lot of Jerry Jeudy in captain because of what he's going to allow me to do on this slate. Every one of the Jerry Jeudy and captain lineups must have Drew Lock. So those are the rules that I go with to try and build lineups. I hope that the injury news helped you guys. Watch out 90 minutes before when they announce the inactives. NFL is great that way. We get to know who's where, and we can, set up our if-then statements to be ready to go. Hopefully these rules helped you. If you were looking for a complete lineup and me to just give you something and say, here, take this lineup and then play it, that ain't what this channel's about. I'm here to try and make you a better player. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Look out for the next one. Good luck on Monday Night Showdown. Until next time. Bye.
He's a legend.